President Biden stated himself that the Queen was a, quote, statesman of unmatched dignity and constancy, describing her as someone who deepened the alliance between the UK and the US. He first met her in 1982 and more recently as president. But in the wake of her death, former US presidents are also sharing their memories of her, remembering her life, her dedication to the British people, and their own visits with her. There's a deep history here at the White House. She has met all but one U.S. president during her reign, going back to Eisenhower.
And I'm glad that before sailing for England, we had had this chance of seeing at least something of the country with which the whole British Commonwealth has so many friendly ties.
Their Royal Highness's arrival at the National Airport at Washington.
There's a storied history between Queen Elizabeth II and U.S. presidents that reflects a deep bond between the two countries.
I think your visit will improve, if that's possible, the cordial relations which exist between our two great countries.
Her official visits to the U.S. go back to 1951, when then Princess Elizabeth, in her 20s, was greeted by President Truman in Washington. 6 years later, as Queen, hosted by the Eisenhowers at the White House. In 1976, a state dinner with President Ford during America's bicentennial celebration. In 1991, with President George H.W. Bush. In 2007, with his son, President George W. Bush, while marking the 400th anniversary of Jamestown.
Administrations in your country and governments in mine may come and go, but talk we will, listen we have to, disagree from time to time we may, but united we must always remain.
Over the decades, she met with more than a dozen U.S. presidents, but over her 70-year reign, the Queen was the constant.
Queen Elizabeth really represents to our country the manifestation of the special relationship between the United States and Great Britain. I mean, for 7 decades, she has been the embodiment of that friendship.
Anita McBride is former chief of staff to First Lady Laura Bush and assistant to George W. Bush. She recalled the respect for the Queen, the excitement leading up to her visit, the details in making the White House shine, the moments that stay with her.
Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip were very gracious to those of us on the staff of the White House who really had been deeply involved in the planning of her visit. And she invited us to come over to Blair House so she could say thank you to us. And I felt it was my time to say thank you to her.
Over the years, the Queen also welcomed U.S. presidents to Great Britain, including the Kennedys, Reagans, Clintons, Obamas, Trumps, and Bidens.
In 2 world wars and during the Cold War especially, she always was an important part of the foreign policy of the UK and the Atlantic Alliance, as we call the U.S. and Great Britain. So personally, though, I really do think it went from this father-daughter relationship to perhaps a son and mother or son and grandmother relationship, and that each president seemed to find sort of a special link with her and vice versa.
While the flag flies at half-staff at the White House, President Biden says, quote, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was more than a monarch. She defined an era.
Your country and mine have together shown that freedom works.
And a few other interesting facts about the history between the Queen and the U.S. presidents. While she didn't visit the White House during the Reagan administration, she did go to California to visit them at the ranch there, and before visiting the Bushes, went to the Kentucky Derby. One more little factoid. During her visit with George H.W. Bush, they both actually planted a tree on the south lawn of the White House to replace the tree planted in honor of her father. And it's important to note, like so many in the UK, for many Americans, she is the only monarch they have known as well. Jay, Rob?
Yeah, it's so interesting seeing all that old footage, too, of the Queen. It just reminds you, like, how much she was a fixture, not just in the UK, but in American politics as well.
Yeah, no, her power was in her longevity.
Absolutely.
The history, her life, and reign span. It is remarkable. It is remarkable.
Haley Bull reporting for us. Thanks, Haley.